What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Batman News Weekly. This is episode 202 in year 4. We are nearing the end of this year. And, man, not a lot to talk about this week.
No, there is not.
Yeah, Comic-Con kind of screwed us with the whole writer strike and everything like that. Which is kind of crazy. You know, it's speaking of the writer strike, because I feel like that's going to be a topic until this is over.
Yeah.
I posted in the Discord that Disney is now hiring a bunch of AI positions starting at $180,000.
That is so fucked, dude.
Yeah, it's insane because, like, I mean, I don't get. I understand at least in America. I can't speak for anywhere else. Money is king. Like, everybody wants to see how much you can make money for the least cost possible. So
Yeah.
doing AI makes sense. The only way I think everybody starts, like, I guess people win out here is people in general have to come together. And it's unfortunate because I see so many people on Twitter that don't give a shit about the writers or actors because they think they're like entitled rich people. And I'm just like, bro, y'all sit here and watch this content every fucking day.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit here and say that they're entitled people or whatever. Like, and it's unfortunate because as somebody who wants to be a writer, who wants to be in that industry, I know how hard it is to get creative. I know the days when you just don't feel like writing and you got to force yourself to write and do all that kind of stuff. But it does kind of suck, as you know, when you realize there are viewers out there that don't give a shit about any of that. They just think, oh, you're here to provide me entertainment, and that is it. I don't give a shit about anything else.
It's wild. There's this mentality online that I see a whole bunch. It's like, why are people so adamant on rooting for the billionaires, the corporate like monsters, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's totally different in my perspective of like, when you look at a box office success, like for me, that's different. It's not saying, hey, the billionaires get richer. It's like, hey, this really cool movie is succeeding due to the talent that's attached to it, is what I really see. But when people like are legitimately fighting against and arguing against these writers and actors that are picketing, it just freaking blows my mind. Like, what do you have like to argue? Like what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you be on the side of somebody who is a billionaire when you're not getting any of that money? You're just getting the entertainment, but you already pay for the service, so you can already be entertained.
Yeah,
like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I don't think people are gonna realize it until we start getting really shitty movies, right? Because here's the thing, I do think AI is really impressive. I think the things AI can do are insane. But as somebody who has 2 separate like Twitter accounts, and I have one for spicy stuff so I can follow artists and all that kind of stuff that are more like, you know, mature art. AI, a lot of people love doing AI for that kind of shit. It's all the same. It's all the fucking same. And I'm just like, all right, cool. I've seen this a million times. I don't care about it anymore. That's what's going to happen with movies. It's going to be the same fucking plot, same plot twist, same bullshit. Hero does this kind of yada yada. Whereas you need the human element to be like, hey, we see that all the time. Let's do this. Now, granted, humans just run on a cycle, right? Like, I think we're kind of getting tired of superhero movies. Well, at least on DC's end, it feels that way.
Well, not only on DC, just saying right now, the latest Disney Plus show, Secret Invasion, a lot of people are saying that the MCU might be on its literal downtrend of rock bottom.
Interesting. I won't believe that until the Avengers movies fail. So,
true.
Because I think TV is very different than movies. When their movies start failing consistently, then I'll be like, okay, they're done.
Yeah.
Because I haven't even watched the shows, like any of them. Granted, I stopped after Endgame. But my thing is, look at what Barbie just sparked. The Mattel Cinematic Universe.
Dude, it's probably going to hit $1 billion.
Yeah.
It's at $540 million right now.
Yeah. And it was a different take on an IP that has existed for a long time, but it's a different take on something. Like, they didn't just go try to do some silly Barbie animated movie. They went and they're like, let's just make Barbie relatable. Let's make it this cool thing. Now, granted, if you're Ben Shapiro, you're fucking losing your mind. And you think this is the worst fucking movie ever. But, I don't want to get into that topic. But I do think, like, I don't know, man. It's Barbie. The memes today, I don't know if you saw them, are just like all shocked reaction memes of like Greta Gerwig realizing she just started the Mattel Cinematic Universe, because it's just like, because even Greta Gerwig says, she was like, I have no ideas for Barbie 2 right now. She was like, zero, absolutely zero, because she's a director. She wants to direct other stuff too.
Yeah, and she is directing, I believe, 2, if not like 1 Narnia movie on Netflix, apparently.
Yeah.
But she did say in an interview that she, like, from like in the middle of filming Barbie, that like she had already heard rumors and talks of the Mattel universe, of like getting into like bringing back G.I. Joe and like all of these other different things. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It'll be very interesting. It'll be cool if they do it well, but my fear is Barbie I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't confirm or deny how it'll be. But I do feel like Barbie is the unique, it's a diamond in the rough, right? And then everybody's just going to try to carbon copy Barbie. And it's not going to work. It's like every movie that's tried to be John Wick. They don't work. John Wick is great because it has the small details. It has long action scenes instead of a bunch of jump cuts. It's what makes John Wick amazing. Still can't get over that fight scene in season 4 that's video game like. Like, that was an amazing scene. And so that's what makes it great. And then everybody's just going to be like, oh, Barbie, like, went into a real world. Like, I'm already hearing Barney is going to be like different and shocking and all this kind of stuff.
There is it's the guy from Get Out.
Yeah.
He is making
the actor, not the director.
Yeah. He's making a grounded, realistic horror genre Barney.
Yeah. I mean, Barney, I don't know. Is he gonna eat the kids or something, or what? Like, what's gonna happen?
No idea.
Like, is he gonna just grab a kid and eat the head off? You know what I mean? Like, that would be crazy. But if you're saying it's gonna be horror, please don't make Barney Five Nights at Freddy's, because that's
we're
already
already
happening.
getting Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like,
that's what I'm saying.
It's gonna be, again, more of the same.
Yeah.
And you said there was a lot of people who tried to make another John Wick carbon copy.
Yeah.
We have seen failure after failure of people trying to copy the MCU and people trying to copy superhero movies. It's this idea that, like, once somebody grabs hold of that lightning in a bottle, people want that lightning in a bottle. It's just like, oh, they made a lot of money doing it, I want to make a lot of money doing it. And it's what people do. It's not just movies. Like, we talked about how TikTok is always the same thing over and over and over again. And it happens. It's trends. It's just what happens all the time.
Yeah. And it's funny that everybody sees the trend, right? We've heard it since we were kids, monkey see, monkey do. Like, that's been the biggest thing forever. And it's the most truest statement that I could recall, because as much as we know patterns exist and everybody's just going to do what's successful, nobody sits back and realizes, like, let's look at the first person that started it, because they were the different person, and do something different. They're like, no, let's just all do the same thing that everybody does. Mr. Beast is the #1 guy, but everybody copied what Mr. Beast does. And nobody's as big as Mr. Beast in that realm. Same thing with, like, PewDiePie when he was on the rise with gaming, right? He was crazy. He was doing, like, all this other random stuff. And so, like, nobody realizes that. And that's why certain people stick out, right? Like Tarantino, whether you like Tarantino or not, great director in his own way. Like, he does his own thing.
Yeah.
Super feet fetish guy. Like, it's in everything that he does. But, I don't know. Like, nobody understands that part, where that's what makes people so popular. But they're like, no, let's just do exactly what they did in that film. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes with all this AI stuff because, yeah, I don't know. I just can't believe they're paying $180,000 for AI. Like, is that just writing prompts or what's the case there?
I don't know, man, because like for one, like it's wild because my wife is a social media manager,
Mhm.
and uh her job has kind of influenced them to use ChatGPT to
Really?
as their base. Be like,
Okay.
hey, use this and then tweak it to whatever is necessary. Because I don't know if I told you this. I think I said it in one prior episode, but a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I want to see what ChatGPT can think of when it comes to a Batman Beyond movie." And it literally copied and pasted the synopsis of Batman Beyond. Was basically it.
Oh, okay.
Like there was nothing new or creative at all about the idea of Batman Beyond. And
Mhm.
so when it comes to JetGPT, you put in a prompt and it will take every little thing in the internet that is so basic about that prompt and put it there.
Yeah.
So it has no voice. It's just copy paste.
Mhm.
And so like I can see there being like a need for somebody to put in that prompt, but also tweak it a little bit. Because if not, if these companies are stupid enough to just be like, hey, we put this prompt there, let's make a movie out of this, everything will legitimately be all the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm sure we're going to get comics eventually, AI comics that are probably written and drawn by AI.
I really hope not. Literally happening right now as we are recording this. There is a comics writers and fans picketing with WGA event happening right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Hmm.
It is happening, I believe, in California, I think it
Mhm.
is. I mean, over at
Yeah.
Hollywood. I think it's actually happening at NBC Studios.
Okay.
So, yeah. The writer of Lucifer, Joe Henderson, he was the one who tweeted it out, and he said it was happening today.
Nice. Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy. I don't know. Like Hollywood has shown time and time again that they only care about money, and it's why we get the same repeat shit over and over. To be fair, though, a little bit of the blame goes on the viewers because you keep watching the same shit over and over. You know what I mean? That is part of the problem. I saw that. I think is it Paramount? I think it was Paramount said they're no longer going to do animations, and because they don't want to hope that somebody's going to watch them.
Yes. So one thing that people are like freaking out about is like,
Mhm.
man, they completely just threw Sonic away. No, they want to focus on IPs. Sonic
Mhm.
is an IP, so Sonic will still be in the realm. And plus, it's like divided between CGI and live action,
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily animation. As
Mhm.
far as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that is Paramount. They are already making a 2-season TV series on Paramount Plus, as well
Yeah.
as they're already planning a sequel for that, and that is of course also an IP, so they're
Mhm.
focusing on that. They're just not thinking of anything like as far as original animated content.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro like ripped them a new one on Twitter
Yeah,
because
I
of
saw
this.
that.
He's like, that's freaking stupid. I literally just passed a post here, Juice.
Mhm.
Listen to this. You talked about the 180K for Disney, right?
Yeah.
Well, it says here that Netflix is hiring a $900,000 a year AI product manager.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They don't have money to pay writers and directors, man. Well, I mean, the directors actually made their deal, so they should be fine. But it's everybody else that doesn't have the ability to do stuff. As much as we've been talking shit about The Rock lately, he did make $1 million donation to,
Yeah.
or they said 7 figures, so it could be more. But
Yeah.
I mean, the bare minimum would be $1 million. So, Yeah, he donated it. I saw a lot of people pointing out too. They're like, "Yo, where's like Meryl Streep, Rami Malek, and all these other people at?"
They're wanting to know where, because apparently there was some bigger names that were
Yeah.
going to the studios saying, "Hey, don't do this," and they were the biggest names that were on the list of signing, "Hey, we want to strike," and they're not striking. There are big names out there, though. We saw Bryan Cranston striking in front of Disney. There is also Colin Farrell still striking, and then there was also
Like, where's DiCaprio at? I know I mean, there's got to be a lot of 25-year-olds out there, right? He's got to have a reason. He could be trying to get his next person out there. You know, granted, I think he's dating a 19-year-old, so he's got 6 years. So maybe that's why he's not in the market. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's kind of it's really shitty. It hurts as somebody that wants to be in that industry, and like right now I'm just like, goddamn, you know. But it does seem like, I think if this happens, there will be studios like A24 that are like, no, we're for the people, right? Like that'll branch out eventually, and people will just be like, oh, Paramount's making this AI shit, we're not going to go watch it. You know what I mean? I think the general audience will still not care and just go do whatever. But again, my opinions on the general audience have changed recently because I thought the Flash was going to be a success, and it wasn't. But we'll be talking about the Flash here in a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I do think there will be studios that pop up that are like, we are for the artist. And I think a lot of actors will just start working for those studios. And they might have to take a pay cut for a while. But I think eventually when they start raking in the bucks, they'll, unfortunately, those studios that pop up will do that and then start making money and eventually become the new big studios. Or they will allow themselves to be bought out by WB or Paramount. And they'll be like, oh, we're going to keep it, you know, we're actually going to pay actors and stuff. And then eventually this will be back like this in 10 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunately how things happen. But yeah, it's funny. I mentioned A24 because apparently they caused a lot of drama at San Diego Comic-Con because they were showing a like horror movie or something like that. And what happens is, since for people that have never been to Comic-Con is so insane that there's like exclusive lines that you need to be selected for to get into them, because not everybody's like, they just can't have lines everywhere all over the city. Like it's just too much. So you get like 16 points, and you can put these 16 points in 16 different things, or you can just blow your load on one thing and try to get more chances to get into that one thing, right? So if you only want to see the premiere of the Batman, if they did that at Comic-Con, you would just blow your load on that, right? To give yourself 16 chances.
Yeah.
And some people did that for this horror movie that was coming out. I don't know what it was called. I don't know what. It's some A24 horror movie. Well, that was supposed to be like, you are secured to get into that screening because it's an exclusive. Your seat's secure. Well, apparently A24 gave out wristbands to first come, first serve. So everybody that did the exclusive things got fucked over, and their whole load just went to waste. So like a lot of people were super pissed because it was just so disjointed. And apparently even people that had wristbands, like a bus of people showed up and got ushered into the theater. And like, everybody's like, what the fuck is going on? And so like people were shitting on A24 big time. Not as bad as Funko though. I don't know if you saw the stuff that happened with Funko, but everybody was calling it Funko Firefest because
no, I didn't see this.
Yeah. So Funko has this thing every year called Funko Fridays. It's like this big event.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to go to it just to sell the shit you get. Because I have a friend that's really big into Funkos, and I roomed with him one year when he went to Funko Fridays, and he got a Pez from this thing that was worth like $500 and sold it on eBay that day for $500. And I was like, bro. So people just flip those Funkos from Funko Fridays like crazily, whether it's Batman or whatever. But anyways, apparently they had like their food that they gave out was just like sandwiches with like a tomato and a lettuce and like a piece of chicken. Like I'm talking about like cut up boiled chicken, like a little piece of chicken in there. And they're like, what the fuck is this? And then they were also charging for drinks like water and stuff, when before you got all that stuff for free. And the one thing that was pretty fucked up in San Diego was during the con, bottles of water were like $7. Like it was crazy how insane shit was. So a lot of fucked up shit coming out post Comic-Con, which was nuts. But anyways, so yeah, there's crazy AI stuff, Comic-Con, whatever. But let's move on to, since I mentioned the Flash on how it's changed my mind on the general audience, thinking that it would actually be successful. There's this weird phenomenon with DC movies that they get their praise after they're out of the theater. And I don't understand this. It happened with Shazam. People were like, oh, Shazam's actually a good movie. And I'm like, well, you didn't, you could have went and saw that in the theater instead of letting it make like $12 million. But The Flash is soaring in digital
sales. Yeah,
it's crazy. So like they're on top of 2 charts right now or something like that. I don't know what the difference between the 2 charts are, but it's number 1. And so that's $20 a pop from my understanding. And I'm like, you could have saw it for cheaper in theaters. Is it because you own it that you're buying it? Like, I don't understand.
I mean, that could also be something. There's also the idea of like, okay, you only have to pay $20 compared to taking a family of 5. You have to pay almost $20 a pop,
fair.
Plus concessions and everything else. And that's the big thing. Like I said before, this summer is jammed packed with with at least 4 family hits, because from what I've heard, Barbie is actually family friendly. It's not just a mature movie. It's something that everybody can see. You have Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse, you have Transformers, and you have The Flash. That's 4 right there. And so you can't have, a family of 4 going to the movies every single weekend to watch these movies on top of also getting concessions and everything else. So they have to pick and choose. And so if they choose one, they're like, okay, we'll just wait until the other ones are streaming. So maybe that is easier.
Yeah, that is a fair point. But like, it's just, I don't get it, man. I don't get how DC is so poor at going to the theaters like fans are.
Yeah.
Superman is going to be the test. If they don't show up for Superman, it's just nobody cares to go to the theater.
It's going to be really interesting because from what do we remember, I would like to see if it was in the original trailer. But for the Suicide Squad, and again, the Suicide Squad is not the best choice just because it was in the middle of the COVID shutdown. There was only a select few theaters that were actually showing it, and then of course they streamed it straight to Max. But I would be interested to see if they had put from the director of Guardians of the Galaxy in their trailer for the Suicide Squad, and if they would do it again for Superman.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they would. I mean, DC kind of has hinted at Marvel a couple of times in their trailers before, with the with the Shazam one, like the other Marvel or whatever. They did that, remember? Or they even did like hey, congrats to Miss Marvel or whatever, when they were.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And so I don't think they shy away from that. So, and that's a big marquee thing. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I actually haven't seen. I've only seen one Oppenheimer trailer, but have they been like Christopher Nolan, the guy who did Inception? Like, is there one of those trailers? I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is. I actually haven't seen any trailers from Oppenheimer. I mean, I think just the word of mouth for those 2 movies have just been insane. Barbenheimer has been a real thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that it would be smart to bring back at least the wording of Guardians of the Galaxy, like, from the creator who brought you Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, because that was the last installment. I think it would be smart so that way people can be like, oh, James Gunn did this Superman movie. Cool, let's go see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope. I have no faith in marketing for DC though. So
for real, no, I totally agree. Just because it was not any of the actual like Max or DC or even Harley Quinn accounts on Twitter that I saw Harley Quinn was streaming today.
Yeah. It is they're just bad. They're bad. I don't know if it's somebody older that has that position, but they need to like just move them to a like, hey, you oversee stuff, but you don't really have a say in things. Like, we need a new voice. We need a new person to come in here and lead. Because it's just not working, man. Like, it's not that hard. Like, now, granted, they shoved the Flash down people's throats, but it wasn't good. And again, we'll never know what the cause of the Flash was. We don't know if it's because people are like, these 4 movies don't matter. We hate Ezra Miller. Apparently not. If everybody's buying it on VOD, the Ezra Miller thing doesn't matter because he's still in the movie. I don't know. I wonder what their max numbers are when it goes on, if it's not on there yet. I wonder what those are going to be. But yeah, I don't know, man. So people will see. I mean, I'm curious if they're like, oh, it's doing really well on VOD. Should we keep Ezra Miller around? You know? I don't really. I think at this point, you just kind of, I still haven't got confirmation. So I think that Instagram thing was bullshit of James Gunn saying that continuity starts with Superman Legacy. Like, I haven't seen that anywhere. So I don't know if they're going to still keep whatever happens in The Flash, which, again, still doesn't make sense. I'd prefer James Gunn just to come out and say that now. Like, oh, yeah, Superman Legacy is the first movie, which we'll have to revisit this. Wouldn't be surprised if he says after Aquaman comes out. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think that might be the thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they still, like, because as of right now, there are a lot of people talking about delays and everything else. There has been a few movies that have been delayed. There's still some that are very, like, much still staying where they are at. I know that the MCU's The Marvels is staying in November, as well as Dune Part 2 is still staying in December, I think, or maybe even November.
Yeah. I have no interest to see those movies. Like, especially Marvels. I didn't see the first one. I don't know what it is about Brie Larson. I'm just not a fan. Love her in Scott Pilgrim, though. Love her song. Her song is so great. Love her. I didn't know that was Brie Larson until after I noticed I don't like Brie Larson. Like, because she's like super blonde in that.
Yeah.
And she plays a very different type of thing. And then I was all like, oh. And then I see that and I'm just like, that's my favorite Brie Larson movie. She's not in it that long, but I like her in that movie. Although I did hear the movie she won an Oscar for was really good. I never saw that. Where she's like trapped in a room or some shit.
Which one? The Room. Yeah.
Is it called The Room? Yeah, I just know she's like trapped in it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But that one also just looks really Marvel, cheesy kind of. And I just can't do that.
Apparently, this will be the first one to have like a musical number to it and stuff. Yeah, it's gonna have.
They're trying to beat Joker.
Well, I think like the really big thing is Kamala Khan is in it, and because of like her show being a lot about her heritage and stuff, there is gonna be a scene that is very like Bollywood type.
They're not gonna have Brie Larson do Bollywood dancing, are they?
I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, that's gonna be. I guess you could get away with it if they're incorporating it, but that'll be something. I'd be interested to see how the internet's gonna act with that one. But yeah, that'll be intriguing. Anyways, let's move on to something that kind of got some like leeway or like some like headlines, but not really. I don't think it was as big because again, nobody, I guess, cares for the Flash.
Yeah.
It came out that the reason Keaton's Batman was retired in the movie is because he killed someone in front of a kid or killed someone in front of their kid.
Yes.
Thoughts?
So it's not really surprising that Keaton's Batman is a murderer because we've known this before. That's not the big conversation piece.
Yeah.
The big conversation piece was when somebody finally reiterated that's like, oh, he was somebody else's Joe Chill.
Mm-hmm.
And when you put it into that perspective, that like you finally, I think Keaton and his Batman, this Bruce Wayne finally realized that, like, hey, killing is not okay.
Yeah.
Because it finally hit him at that moment, like, oh, that's me, and I just killed his father.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that all makes sense. And I guess maybe that's why it didn't get that much traction. I mean, again, it's for a movie we're never going to see again. And this is probably the last time we're going to see Keaton as Batman, unfortunately. Uh, Still would have loved the Beyond. I wouldn't mind them doing Beyond animated, and he is the voice, you know, like of older Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
That would be kind of cool. But I'm actually really excited to talk about Beyond today because I love what they did with Gotham. Like,
Oh, I really like it too.
Yeah. So anyway, that'll be in the comic section.
But the scene that we're talking about,
Yeah.
it is a deleted scene, and
Mhm.
it is viewable online already.
Oh.
It is out there. You get the exposition from from young Barry
Okay.
in the movie. So when they are flying to Russia, they're like talking to each other and they're whispering, and it's young Barry. It's like, oh, well, rumor has it that, Batman like actually killed somebody and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
And and you're like, again, as a viewer, you're like, okay, yeah, this Keaton has killed before. That doesn't,
Yeah.
bother us. It's something that we've all talked about. But that's when he mentions he killed somebody in front of his kid. And so you're like, oh shit. So it was an actual deleted scene.
Oh, interesting. Did they have the extra end credit scenes or no?
From I haven't I think that would have been bigger news if we actually
Yeah.
had seen that scene. So I don't believe it is out there yet.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't bought the VOD yet just because I've just come back from traveling, so I'm trying to make sure I don't spend a lot of stuff. So I do want to buy that eventually because I could see myself watching that on a plane just to pass time.
Yeah.
It was entertaining enough. But yeah, so I don't really think much of it. I was just like, it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, we're getting a new Batman, we're doing all this kind of stuff. So who cares? But yeah, that was pretty much it. That's pretty much what's going on this week. There is a small bit of comic book news. I have been seeing this all over Twitter. A new Black Label book by the artist and I assume writer Christian Ward is going to be doing a book called Batman City of Madness. I'm assuming there's going to be multiple books because it does say book 1 on it. And yeah, I mean, it just looks like it's going to be a kind of a gothic style art, very unique art style. And I don't know if there's a synopsis for it. Let's see. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Based on Lovecraftian cosmic horror, it will act as a pseudo sequel to Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum, Sirius House on a Serious Earth. In addition, Ward has listed Scott Snyder's Batman, Court of Owls, and Jim Starlin's Batman, The Cult as inspirations for the series. So anytime you mention Arkham Asylum to me, I cringe a little bit. I still don't understand why people think that is such an amazing book. I don't get it. I don't understand the fascination with it. I think the art makes me kind of want to throw up a bit. But the writing in it, I didn't think was great. And there are things Morrison has done that I enjoy, but Asylum, I can't read that book.
Yeah, it's atrocious to the eyes.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just crazy. But yeah, so if you guys are interested in seeing that, I mean, we will cover at least the first book when it comes out. But that is the only bit of comic book news coming out because I believe we covered the Godzilla stuff last week.
Yeah.
So, which is a lot of people are kind of excited about that.
Yeah, it's making its rounds on TikTok and Twitter. A lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, so I just want to see the Batman mecha suit fight Godzilla. Like, that's what I
on the there's I think a variant cover that Jim Lee did.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. But let's move on to viewer questions. And I just realized I do not have them pulled up here, but we do have one in the Discord from Arwitz. Top 3 movies that have not been mentioned by Gunn that you want to see in the new DCU, team up or solo. What do you got?
So the first one I got, and this is the only one I was able to write down literally before we started recording, just because I think it is James Gunn's specialty to kind of pick out the not very popular characters. This group of characters are popular to a very niche corner of the DC fandom, but just like Guardians of the Galaxy and the Eternals, not a whole lot of people know about them or the origins or even the continuity of them, and that is the Legion of Superheroes.
Okay.
I think putting them in the DCU will put a bigger brand on them, will actually get people to be interested in them and actually be able to coherently learn about the Legion of Superheroes. Because everybody that I've talked to, when I say, hey, I want to get into the Legion of Superheroes, because Legion of Superheroes is very much attached to Superman, and I've always wanted to kind of know about them, it gets a little muddy in the waters because there are so many different runs of Legion of Superheroes that
Yeah.
very much contradict each other. So it's really hard to know what exactly is continuity anymore, especially with all of the rebooting in the DC comics. So I would like to see if Gunn can bring that resurgence and bring Legion of Superheroes back into, like, because one of the biggest things that we talked about when it was happening, but there was a recent article about it also. Gunn doing all of this for the DCU and the cinematic universe and everything, he's brought like a resurgence in the selling of comics for DC.
Yeah. 3 times it has.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
tripled.
if he announces Legion of Superheroes, it will put them back on the map. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. Two of my choices are war movies. One being Blackhawks. I want it to be tied with Wonder Woman in some way. Have her make a cameo or something like that. I think that'd be great. But the second is The Losers, directed by David Ayer.
Okay.
So he's the only David Ayer movie that I gush over is Fury. He's great at war movies, and just give him The Losers as a DC movie and have him do that. And I think that'd be really cool. Give him his redemption. And then Plastic Man. So
my other two, I would definitely want Superboy. I'm not entirely sure what I want from Superboy, whether I want it to be the original type of Superboy with the leather jacket and the sunglasses and like the punk rocker attitude, or if I want what we got back from like Infinite Crisis type of storyline back when he just wore like a t-shirt and jeans. I like both versions of Superboy, and I like Jonathan Kent's Superboy for sure. But I would just like the clone story for sure, because at that point you would need the death of Superman, and I want that told correctly.
Yeah. That'll be interesting if we can actually get it told correctly. But yeah, so that's what I would go with on that particular answer. But moving on to the YouTube, which shout out Clay, your first video got over 5,000 views.
Yeah, I saw that.
Bad.
That's wild.
Shout out to the new people that have subscribed. We appreciate that. If you listen to this podcast and you haven't subscribed, definitely do that, because we are dropping at the moment a video a week. We're still getting the hang of it. We're both pretty busy. Clay's learning the ropes of making content, and I just am doing so much shit that we're trying to get to a video a week. We are working on some long form content right now, so you'll also be getting some larger videos too. So just FYI, you should hit that subscribe button. But moving on to the questions on the YouTube channel, we have from Nathan, which one of these female characters that I didn't make up would fit best in Gotham City Sirens? Silver Banshee, Cheshire, Livewire, Blackfire, Cersei. By the way, I don't know if this was named, or I think we had the question last week of what like gender bent male villain would you go after? And I mentioned Two-Face. I learned that Lady Two-Face is a thing.
I feel like, have we talked about Lady Two-Face before?
This is the first I saw her. I follow this subreddit that is like comics. It's called like Bear Comics or something like that, and they point out like all the time characters have been like, you know, in the nude or whatever, and it's like men, female, like because like it's you don't see that in Western comics, right? And they had one with Lady Two-Face where she's like in lingerie or some shit like that. I'm like, who the fuck is that?
I mean, also Lady Two-Face from freaking Flashpoint Beyond.
Well, I thought that was like the first time.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I didn't know Lady Two-Face was a thing prior to that. And so I was just like, yo, and it looked like very 90s style art that she showed up in. So, you know, you learn something new in comics after 80 years of stuff, you know what I mean? So I thought that was really intriguing that Lady Two-Face is technically a thing. And she was kind of hot, but she had the, you know, burnt Two-Face part of her face too. So
it says here the female Two-Face, Jenna Clark from the Dark Knight Dynasty, and Darcy Dent from Catwoman. So there are two different.
I think it was Darcy Dent. That I don't know if you're seeing photos of it at all, but she was like in purple or something like that.
The purple hair,
yeah. So I think if that's the right one, but I don't know. Anyways, because I think she was fighting Catwoman, so could be the reason. But anyways, I thought that was intriguing. As for this comment, which female character would be good for the Gotham City Sirens? So adding a character to Gotham City Sirens out of all of these, I don't think you can do Cheshire because Catwoman's already there. Then Silver Banshee, maybe Silver Banshee. I don't know why I think of Banshee for Mortal Kombat.
It's honestly, actually pretty close. When it comes to even character design, they are basically the same.
So that's kind of how I think of Silver Banshee. Cersei, is that the Wonder Woman villain, right?
Yes.
I don't think Cersei would be good in the Gotham City Sirens.
I think she's too big of a villain.
Yeah, for sure.
Gotham City Sirens.
She would look down on the Sirens.
Yeah.
And now, if you wrote a story where the Sirens work for her, maybe. Out of these, I think personally, I would go Livewire instead of Blackfire. I think Livewire, personality-wise, probably fits with them more. Blackfire is obviously Starfire's sister, right? And she seems like she wants world domination, and I think the girls kind of just want to chill.
See, for me, I could go with probably any of Cheshire, Livewire, or Blackfire. Cheshire, I think, is a grounded enough character to fit in with the group that is already the Gotham City Sirens. Livewire, I think, is the same type of tier as a villain as all three of them, as well as Blackfire. Blackfire has been one of those villains that has gone the route of like world domination because she thought she was the hot shit coming to Earth, but then realized, oh shit, this planet is full of superpower beings stronger than me. I'm not that big of, hot shit. So, she, was very humbled. But I could see any of those three being in the Gotham City Sirens. Me personally, I think just because she would be the oddball out, and I think it would be fun, would be Livewire.
Yeah. I think like Livewire, there'd be a lot of jokes. I think her and Harley would butt heads, and she'd be like, power the blender. I need power or whatever, and be like, what the hell, So I think it'd be like stupid shit like that. So I'd go Livewire, just because also she's different than the other characters in the Sirens. So let's see. Moncray says, y'all can't be sleeping on the the MILFs in DC. I was like, I think he was trying to say Mortal Kombat here. But the MILFs in DC, how would you guys rank these from least most to most hottest? Talia al Ghul, Atlana, Atlana, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Martha Kent, Hippolyta, Bianca Reyes. Okay, who's Atlana? I don't know that character.
I'm pretty sure that is the Queen of Atlantis.
Okay, let me see. I gotta see. We're talking about well, I mean, if we're going off the movie,
that's Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, it's pretty big up there. Okay, so I gotta look at some of these. So here's the thing. Okay, so we're going out of all of these hottest to Bianca Reyes. I need to see.
That is Jaime Reyes's mother.
Okay. Again, I don't know if we've seen. Well, it's funny because I'm getting I'm getting like news anchors, just popping up. So I'm gonna go, unfortunately, starting with Jaime's mom because I just haven't seen enough of her, to be honest. So she's gonna be at the bottom.
Yeah.
Probably followed by, I don't know, like Hippolyta. I want to put Hippolyta probably fourth. I'm gonna say, because I don't think I've ever seen like a super hot Hippolyta. You know what I mean? Not that I know of. I could be wrong there. And then I'm gonna go probably Martha Kent. Although I don't know what story it was. Oh, it was the first story in Beyond today. Martha looking kind of hot in that book.
No, it's in which one?
In the first story of Beyond, the baseball story. There, Martha Kent's in that book. Or not
No.
Oh, Martha Kent. I'm thinking
Kent,
Wayne,
not Wayne.
Yeah, they have the same name. See, there's a problem. Now I know why Batman paused when he almost killed Superman. Martha. Okay, so Martha Kent. Oh, Martha Kent's at the bottom then. Because I was thinking about Wayne. So dyslexia got the best. So Martha fifth, Reyes, then Hippolyta, then Atlanta, then Talia. That's mine.
You're gonna put Talia at the top?
Hell yeah. Look, I know she's done some terrible things and she's rapey and shit, but she is hot as fuck.
Oh, see, I don't know. I think I would probably have to go. Hippolyta's a goddess.
She's a goddess, but I'm going off of Nicole Kidman. When I look at these other comics, she's got like seashells growing on her coochie and shit. I don't need that. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, got barnacles and shit. Like, I'm just like, yo. I'm going Talia there. Animated series Talia's hot. So, like,
until you find out that it's Raish.
Yeah, that's true. That would be a surprise I don't want to figure out. But if we're going off pure looks, still hot. It's still her body, you know?
Oh, man. I'm gonna go Martha, because
go from least to hottest. So start your start at 5.
Martha, Bianca, Talia, Atlanta, Hippolyta.
Hippolyta number 1. Okay, I gotta look at Hippolyta because I need to see what you're looking at. Because I always see Hippolyta as not like, they don't really draw her like super attractive. I mean, not that she's not attractive, but they draw her like old school Greek style, you know? So they're not like, I think Wonder Woman is just so much more superior in hotness to her. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not. See, we should have probably ranked these because I think all of these people have been in the movies. We probably should have ranked it off of that. Well, his mom is going to be, I mean, Jaime's mom will be in the next one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like we got to revisit this, and it's got to be actual live action, because I was kind of incorporating comics too. You want to read the next one because I don't have it. I accidentally closed my tab.
Yeah. So the next one comes from User UK. If Batman got into the Naruto universe, could he become Hokage?
Oh, yeah. I feel like it's pretty easy that he could become Hokage. Would he want to be Hokage is a question.
That I don't think he would. Well, I feel like Hokage is different from just being a political face in Gotham, though, right?
Yeah.
Hokage is also like a
warrior,
a place of power in so many different versions of the word.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Like the ultimate protector of what would Gotham be? The village hidden in the shadows?
Probably.
I don't know.
The cave, the hidden village or something like that, which is what it already is. I mean, he could be Hokage. I will say he can be 100%.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he would want to work in the shadows like those hidden shinobi from the hidden village. You know what I mean? And like be going after the worst type of people, you know? I don't know if he'd be in that kind of vibe. Like, you know how oh my god, the one eye guy. Well, he has both eyes, but he covers one eye. I'm forgetting his name.
Kakashi.
Like how he grew up in that, whole realm. I don't know if Batman would stick in that realm, personally. But yeah, I do think he could be Hokage. Will he want to would be the bigger question.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, we have Eduardo de Cruz. Juice. By the way, have you ever wanted to make out with someone you regularly do a podcast with? I don't know why this has been going on lately.
He just like did a whole dialogue thing. This is so fucking funny.
Why.
He says, Clay, what the fuck? No, why? What does this have to do with Batman? Juice.
Never mind. Anyway, who would win? Swamp Thing versus One Punch Man. Clay's parents versus Juice's parents. Nightmare versus Nightcrawler. Nightwing versus Nightcrawler. I mean, Clay's mom's kind of hardcore.
Yeah, she can be pretty freaking scary. I'm not gonna lie. There's the stereotypical like Mexican parent that throws the chancla and stuff. But like my mother has like squared up with like my wife's mother, and then like, hey, if you step foot on my yard again, I'll shoot you. So I'm like, oh shit.
My mom's pretty passive. My dad can get a little wild if he needs to. So I don't know, man. If we're going off moms, I'll give it to Clay's mom for sure. My mom's pretty passive, so I mean, she can get heated if she needs to. But she likes to kind of just stay out of it. But yeah, I'll go with that. And then I don't know anything about Clay's dad, so I can't really say anything there. I mean, he's a Superman fan, so
yeah. Superman fan, military guy. Yeah.
No, so yeah. I don't know. I know my dad can get a little crazy, but I don't know too much about Clay's dad, so we'll have to just toss that up. But if it's mom,
the old fashioned, my dad's stronger than your dad.
Yeah, my dad can beat up your dad. At One Punch Man, I mean, again, it comes down to. I mean, One Punch Man could probably break the world if he wanted to. So
yeah, well, and that's the thing, because I mean, this is going off the conversation that we had about Swamp Thing versus Ivy, right?
Yeah.
The green. The green is very powerful. We know this. But it also goes back to the idea of like, what rules do these go along with? Like, are we following the rules of DC? Because I think if that's the idea, I think Swamp Thing might be stronger than One Punch Man if we're going off the idea of DC, or if we're following the rules of anime and manga, I think One Punch Man is stronger. It's all very wonky when it comes to these types of things, but I truly think like we talked about how One Punch Man has like punch squishy things before. Swamp Thing is basically the same thing, and so I do think One Punch Man might win this one.
So my only, if we are taking Swamp Thing's powers into the One Punch Man world, so where he can destroy things in one punch, my only question would be, can Swamp Thing destroy everything green in the world and suffocate One Punch Man? So like if Swamp Thing could go all the way into the ground, because he doesn't need, like, he can survive off of water and oxygen underground, but there would be no oxygen above ground, so he basically terraforms the world, and kills One Punch Man that way, and then he just grows back. He's like, bitches. But could he do that?
I don't think he can. Just because I think that would do more harm to the green than anything, and that's the one thing that both Ivy and Swamp Thing don't want to do.
True. But if he does have Ivy powers, Ivy took over Superman. So if she could use the pheromones or whatever the fuck she was using to take over him, maybe that's how you get One Punch Man. And then you just have him punch himself.
Oh, fuck.
Like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Boom, head explode. So yeah, I would go with that. Jason Todd, hot take. Arkham Jason Todd, the best version of the character. The suit doesn't miss, intimidating, and makes him very villainous, and the prequel comic sold me. Thoughts? The game Arkham Red Hood?
Arkham Knight.
The one with the white jacket and shit? That's an ugly costume.
It's the camo. It's like the red, blue, white, and gray camo.
Hold on.
With the
Arkham
with
Jason.
Like it's the like metal. It's the Arkham Knight is what he's called. and you find out that it's Jason Todd.
Oh wait, no, but he also had the DLC though that had the Red Hood suit. But it was like the red hood with the helmet, and he had the jacket and all that kind of stuff. I think that suit's kind of ugly, personally. I don't like it. I like the classic brown jacket, red hood, all that kind of stuff. I don't give a shit about the Arkham Knight, to be honest. I don't consider that Red Hood. I consider that the Arkham Knight.
Don't remember his Red Hood look in Arkham.
Yeah, just type it in. He was in a DLC. It was a DLC, and a lot of people cosplay that version, but I personally don't think that version's great.
Oh, this is the version that's in Injustice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to agree. I like the brown jacket better.
Yeah. I don't think the suit's great, but they're saying that the version of him is better. So like personality, all of that kind of jazz. So what do you think about that?
I don't know, because it was so small of a story for him.
Yeah.
The only thing that we really got was his villainous side, him like, I hate Batman, blah, blah, blah. And then we got the small tidbits of backstory of him being actually captured by Joker. We didn't really get a whole lot from him compared to the years and years and years that we've gotten in comics. And even what we've gotten in animation, as far as movies and TV shows. I think that Arkham Knight brought in a very interesting take on Jason Todd, with the idea of coming back as something a little bit more, because I think this Red Hood is 100% more villainous than the Red Hood that did come back in the comics.
Yeah.
To completely do what he did in Arkham Knight, take over the city, team up with Scarecrow and all of this other stuff. I think that's a lot more villainous than what he was in the comics.
Yeah.
And I think that is a little bit more interesting. His pure hatred for Batman at that point, compared to what he is really fighting for, and the idea of like, oh, I'm going to be a better Batman than Batman. I'm going to clean up the city, and then teaching Batman a lesson with Joker. I think that is it's a compelling story. But this is a little bit more villainous. And I think that is an interesting take. I'm not going to agree with a more interesting take, though.
Yeah, it is definitely an interesting take. But I do think, I don't know. I do like Red Hood. I think Red Hood should just be a villain, personally. So I can understand this idea that it is a better take. But I think he needs to be a villain for the right reasons. And Batman needs to like just stop the hypocrisy and be like, no, you're a killer. Like you need to be in Arkham. You know what I mean? Because he has let him slide a lot. Like, and I understand that he wants to help out some troubled kids, but sometimes there are some people that you just can't help, and I think Jason Todd can be one of those. And I think he would be a formidable villain because he was trained by Batman. And I think. I don't know why they don't pull the trigger on that, but I mean, there's plenty of things DC doesn't do with Batman, right? So maybe that's why. And I think his fans would probably revolt. I think a lot of Red Hood fans would definitely revolt and be like, he's not a villain, he's a good guy. And be like, no, he's not. Like, he's not a good guy. Anti-hero is the best thing you can say.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. Next up, we got Alexis Barrera. Within the next 20 years, will James Gunn be seen as the Stan Lee of DC, or does that title already go to someone else? No. I mean, even if the DCU was gangbusters, like billion-dollar movies over and over, he's not going to be seen as the Stan Lee of DC because he doesn't.
The closest thing he'll be is the Kevin Feige of DC.
Yeah.
The Stan Lee of DC, unfortunately, was creator of Batman.
Bill Finger. Well, yeah. I mean,
Bob Kane. That's who I mean.
With Bill Finger.
Bob Kane was like the guy that went on all the talk shows, that was at the premieres and everything else. Like, he was the guy that everybody was like, oh shit, it's Bob Kane. He was the Stan Lee of DC. And he died a long time ago.
Yeah, he didn't have the longevity.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard he was a party animal though, apparently. So,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest though, in 20 years though, because I think a lot of people have already forgotten Bob Kang. I think Bill Finger gets more recognition because he got screwed, and people prefer to go give the recognition to somebody who got screwed out of what we know as Batman today. I think in 20 years, the person that people are still going to be talking about is Jim Lee.
Yeah.
You know, because he's taken over and he's done so much with DC. Granted, he hasn't really created too many DC characters, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But he created Hush, and Hush was huge. So, and it's regarded as one of the best DC stories there is for Batman, especially.
And Hush is getting a legacy character in October.
So, it'll be very interesting to see. I think Jim Lee will be the closest thing because he does do interviews, he does go on panels and all that kind of stuff, and he's a part of the movies too. So, I think they should start putting him in cameos, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think he should definitely get some cameos. But that's that question. The last one we got is from Clay. What movie would trick general audiences to watch the DC movie the most? All-Star Western, I, Vampire, Men of War. I haven't read any of these.
So All-Star Western would be a Jonah Hex movie. I, Vampire would be a I, Vampire movie. And Men of War would be a Sergeant Rock Losers movie.
Oh, I think people love army movies more than anything in this world for some reason. Then it would go westerns. Then it would go vampires.
Yeah.
So
I think
unless they're sexy vampires.
Well, the thing is, I think the vampire and zombie shtick has kind of like gone away in the movie industry, at least.
Yeah.
So I think that would be your last resort. And I do agree with you. I think it would be army military movie and then western. Because every once in a while we go back to westerns and they're always good. Like even if they don't make like a shit ton of money in the box office, they're always pretty good. So I do think that either one of these would bring more people into the idea of like, oh shit, this was a DC movie. Like, what does it have anything to do with Superman and stuff like that? And then they would probably go see more.
Yeah. I mean, what was the last big Western? Django?
No, it would be Magnificent Seven.
Oh, yeah.
There was the Netflix Western movie with Idris Elba in it. And what's her name from
Hateful
Watchmen?
Eight was pretty popular.
Oh, yeah. Hateful Eight was also very popular. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Westerns come out and they're pretty crazy. I don't know. Is Django considered a Western?
I would assume so.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I know I've never actually seen the full movie, but I've seen parts of it. So, but I just know it because it obviously deals a lot with slavery. But I didn't know if that was necessarily still part of the Western genre so much.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I mean, I guess it could. I mean, they're riding horses and shooting revolvers, so I don't know how much more Western that could be. But yeah, I think that is every question, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I would probably go, definitely Sergeant Rock for sure. So that is all we got for questions this week. And moving on to comics. And I have to say, comics been getting kind of good. This Nightmares thing is a little better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know how long they had to prepare for this event. Again, this is all part of the Dawn of DC initiative. If you guys remember, way back when Dawn of DC was starting, they came out with this little banner that showed the few books that were starting off the Dawn of DC, and then a little bit would get revealed after so often. Night Terror was always a part of that, and it's been there for a while now. So I think they had ample time to really kind of work this whole thing out. And the really cool thing is, of course, hopefully we'll get better stories after this Night Terror story, because that gives our other ongoing title writers ample time to prepare their other arcs in the future. But yeah, I've really liked these individual stories because they're tied to each other, but they're not strictly tied to each other. They're kind of their own one-shot stories that kind of, have little crumbs of the other stories in them.
Yeah, for sure. So you didn't read Detective, right?
And I did read Detective.
Oh, did you read? I didn't read Titans, so I don't know if you want to start with that.
I did not read Titans.
Okay, so there is a Titans book that came out that was Nightmares that we did not read. We had a lot of books, and we were kind of picking and choosing what we went through. Okay, let's start with Detective then, because we both read that. So,
well, do you want to start with Detective or do you want to start with Nightmares #2? Because there are characters that play a part in Nightmares 2 that go along with Detective.
True. I read the ending wrong because it said to be concluded in Detective 2. I thought it meant Nightmares 2. All right, I'll start with the Nightmares 2 then, because if I can find that, where the fuck is that in my shit? All right here. So Nightmares 2, we remember we read the first book and it ended with Sandman showing up. Zombie Sandman, pretty much, because they brought him back. And a majority of this book is just dead men in Batman's body talking to Sandman. And they're like, and we basically get a lot of backstory about how the Nightmare Stone was created, right? Or how it was going to be created, but it got foiled by Sandman in the past, essentially. And he thought it was gone. But this was the one case that haunted Sandman. And, Dead Man talks to him. He's like, all right, maybe I should put you back in your box. It's been a while. And he's like, did you not hear me? This is the case that haunted me. Like, I need to solve this. I'm going anywhere you go. And he's like, okay. And so they go and they're trying to find out, what's going on. And we learn more about, he goes into, so I got a little confused here because there is an old man who's dreaming about being young. And
yes, he is the only surviving family member of the original cult.
Yes.
And so he is dreaming of basically being a king. And like everybody's like hand feeding him, he's drinking wine, and this is where Insomnia shows up. He's like, hey, where's the Nightmare Stone? He's like, are you kidding me? Like, that thing haunted me for years. Like, my whole family fucked up with this whole cult thing. Like, no, I'm not gonna, tell you anything. I'm not gonna tell you squat. I don't know where it is, and even if I did, I wouldn't say anything. And Insomnia is like, you know what? You want your money? That's all you care about? Fine. And he threw a bag of money into his mouth because, of course, this is a nightmare. And legit, the dude's body in the real world busts with nothing but coins just popping out everywhere.
Yeah, it's like Scott Pilgrim at the end of it. Everybody just like does that, which is really cool. And then that goes on to, they go to Terrific Tech, which I never knew Terrific had his own home base like this, and I haven't read too much Mr. Terrific, but they go to Terrific Tech. And Red Tornado's there, and they're kind of talking about like, Batman, how are you awake? And he's like, it's Dead Man. And he's like, oh, okay. Like, everybody's kind of chill with it. They're like, all right.
Well, no, it's just, I like how, like, even Dead Man's like, what, you don't want me? Like, you would rather have Batman? And then Red Tornado's like, well, we can use all the hands we could get. You'll suffice, basically.
Yeah. And so, they're kind of going through like every hero's basically asleep. We need to figure out what's going on. And this is kind of when Dead Man gets like a brain zap, essentially. And he starts having a memory of Insomnia in Arkham. So we're learning that Insomnia is a person from Arkham. And he's like, oh, he doesn't talk. And they're trying to give him, just treatment. And then he sees that the Justice League came back from the dead. And he's like, what the hell? And he flips the table and he starts like choking people out. And they have to put him under. And this is when we learn that he is somebody they keep asleep all the time because he's so dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's why he's probably gotten to be powerful in nightmares because he is so powerful. So I thought that was a very interesting thing. We have Sandman kind of being like, what did you see? And then the lights go out. And this is when we find out that Insomnia sent the sleepless night, because everything's a night in DC, the sleepless nights to go take out Batman and everybody. And there's just this epic final page where they have Red Tornado's head and spine on, just like they're just holding it. And
it's pretty epic.
Yeah, and it's like, it's kind of cheesy. It's like, it's way past your bedtime. And they have his head just like hanging there. And then it says, to be continued in 2 weeks in the death of dead men. So how you kill a dead man, it'll be very interesting, but we're going to find out. So yeah, not like super exciting book, but it continues the story in a way that I'm like, okay, see I want to know what these knights are, you know. Yeah. I'm always intrigued by the new knights, but it's always like, you know, there's other words out there that we can use instead of knights, but it's like, oh, Batman, we gotta keep everything tied to that. You know, they could have come up with something better, I think, but it is what it is. There are these crazy demon looking creatures that kind of look like they're at a Silent Hill kind of style. And we learn a little bit more about them in Detective Comics. Yeah. Which is the second book that comes out. Now, we haven't been reading Detective Comics, ladies and gentlemen. Because it is Ram V, who has just signed an exclusive contract with DC. And we wish him all the best, but we haven't been liking Detective. Now, I do think that this is part of that, but Ram V didn't write this, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, he didn't write this, and that was one of the reasons why I was not going to read it. But then I saw the writer of this comic, and I was like, now I have to give it a try.
Yeah.
This is Dan Waters. Of course, he was the one that wrote The Sword of Azrael, which we loved last year. So we were like, hey, we got to try this book out. So after reading it, it does remind us when we were reading Detective, there was a backup story where Jim Gordon found this child. And it was very wonky art. I didn't really like it, and it was very confusing. So I didn't really ever look at it ever again. But this kid has apparently played a big part in Jim Gordon's story in DC right now. Yeah. And so much so that he's in this nightmare with Jim.
Yeah. His name is Sorrow. Now, I like all of Jim's dialogue in this book. I think it's pretty solid. I think it fits Gordon. You know, he's trying to do what he can. Sorrow's a little annoying to me, the way he talks. And here's what I want to know. I don't know Ram V's ethnicity or his background or anything like that. I get the vibe that Sorrow is, I don't know the proper term anymore. I would say Native American. But like, that's the vibe I get. Cause he also has like the bird wings on his back, like a tattoo. Yeah. And the way he talks, I feel like is how media portrays Native Americans. You know what I mean? So I again, we don't know this character. We haven't been reading the book. So this could be exactly what I'm saying, but it's kind of like I mentioned with the punchline thing, where it's a lot of word vomit. And I feel like they try to make the character very sophisticated, where sometimes you can go a little too sophisticated and a little too knowledgeable, and it's just kind of off-putting. And that's kind of the vibe I got. Because it seems like this person was like, I know so much about these people and I know what they need to change and they want us to follow them. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. Like, you could just be showing me and saying very little, you know? But then we get to these, I love the art design here of this weird, crazy clock. And there's what I was assuming were Red Hood gang type of nightmares for Jim Gordon.
Yeah.
And they were asking for wishes from these crazy Silent Hill deities, which are the Nightmare Knights or whatever from the previous book.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of them's asking for money. One of them's asking for power, yada, yada. And I just love the designs of how creepy these things look. And they're like, oh, that's what you want? Sure, we'll give you whatever you want. And they start like transforming into these weird beings similar to these Nightmare Knights. And we see Sorrow try to jump into action to save these people and gets disintegrated. Like just fucking, you know, Final Flash disintegrated. And Jim Gordon's like, no. And obviously pulls out his gun. And one of these creatures that has evolved is all like, oh, you know, there's I don't know what they call them. Like, they're like, oh, there's like this one other person. violent man stalking the city is what they were kind of saying. So they were saying that Jim Gordon was the violent man. And somebody saves Gordon from this light beam, and he knows who it is because it's a woman that he's met before. I don't know how he knows, but he knows. And we get flashbacks. They do kind of tie this to, this is the Gordon that was in Scott Snyder's run, because he did say he was part of Batman for a while, or he was Batman for a little bit. And we see the Buster suit in this book. And then we do get glimpses of a nightmare Batman.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. I like that design. Gordon, this nightmare Batman is getting shot, killing people, which is kind of crazy. I love the designs of him just ramming his hand through people, which is nuts. And Gordon is breaking, which I think is very interesting.
He's crumbling. Like, at first he gets frustrated and punches a wall.
Yeah.
And like his entire palm just starts to crack, and he like just puts it in his pocket. But when he tries to stop this nightmare Batman, the recoil of the gun shatters his wrist.
Yeah. So
crazy.
Pretty interesting. I think symbolically, because he is breaking throughout this book, is him feeling old and that he can't do much, and maybe that's his nightmare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we do have this nightmare Batman saying like, oh, you're Jim Gordon. Like, you and I are almost the same. Like, you were one of the good men in Gotham. He was like, you can rest now, Jim Gordon. Like, I have this. And so this nightmare Batman runs away, and Gordon's kind of just like, his legs starting to break and shatter. And the nightmares show up, and they're like, he's like, why did you do this to me? And they're like confused a little bit. And they're just like, were you not supposed to get something? Oh, well, fuck. All right, my bad. Because he does kind of almost get nicked by the laser. And I don't know if that does something to him or what the case is. But Gordon's like, you know what? I know who did this to me, because he knows one of the, I guess, red masks. So he goes and talks to this woman who he only met once. And he goes to her, and I'm assuming this is the one that wanted riches.
Yeah.
Because she is choking on diamonds. She's just like throwing up diamonds. And Gordon's like, I'll save you. I got to put my, hands in my throat to get out whatever's in your throat. And his fingers and everything break off. And I'm just like, damn, like the visuals in this book were crazy.
Yeah.
And then it shows like, as this girl's dying, choking on diamonds, one of the nightmare knights is there. And it's just like, it says to be concluded in the next book. Visually, this book was awesome. I think everything but the dialogue from Sorrow, that was my only dislike of it.
Yeah.
Personally. So, that's kind of all I have to say about this book. Any negatives about it, but I thought it was cool. Dan Waters is fire. I know Dan Waters recently, I think, got engaged, but also said that he got one of his projects greenlit at DC. So I'm excited to see where he's going to go. What I've learned from a lot of the books that we're reading today is a lot of these writers that we enjoy are very versatile.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just good at one character. And I like that, because I've always said good writers should be able to write anything well.
Yeah.
So we'll see. So moving on from that, let's do Batman Beyond last, and let's go over to the
Brave and the Bold.
Brave and the Bold. So no Tom King book this week, which we've read 2 so far, because this is number 3. I was under the impression that they were going to skip 4.
Yeah.
No, well, the thing is, like, they were going to skip book 4 and continue in 5. But now it looks like they're skipping 3 and hopefully continuing in 4. Because like, King does not have a book in this a story in this particular book. So maybe they're skipping 2 issues, or he just misspoke on Twitter. So I don't know. But either way, or it might have been Mitch that misspoke. I don't know. But I enjoyed both of the stories that we read in this book, because we did read this first story, which I don't know who the author was for this.
The author of the first one is Dennis Culver.
Okay. So I can't say I've read anything from Dennis Culver. If I have, I don't know him by name or know it by name. This first book was really cool because it introduced a new villain that I thought was kind of simple but creative. And they called him the baseball, or they call him the baseball bat, right? Or what do they call him? Baseball man.
Baseball.
Yeah, Mr. Baseball. And he got the nickname because he loved everything about baseball, but he was a mastermind at robbing banks and stuff. And he was so good that he always had a backup plan or a game plan to distract Batman while doing these heists. And so that's kind of the backstory we get. I thought he was a little bit of a Negan at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's destroying people with the bat that has barbed wire on it. And he's just cut up and's got all these scars. I really like the detectives in this book because they're different than what we know. And I love their dialogue. I like how one made fun of one of them's weight. And he was like, hey, man, I'm trying to get it under control. And they're like, and then there's the hard ass one, the chick. And she's all like, we gotta shut the fuck up and like get this done. Like, and Batman's listening to the whole thing. I really like that because they're like, oh, it could have been this. And they're like, oh, but it could have been a hit. And Batman's like, it's both. And so Batman, we get another hint at Matches Malone. Always love when Matches Malone shows up. He talks about how Matches Malone was with best friends with one of these guys or good friends with one of these guys that just got killed. That's when he talks about how he knows about baseball because it was his mom and his like guilty pleasure.
I never thought of Martha Wayne as a baseball person.
But I like that that's why they said it was a guilty pleasure because usually guilty pleasures are something you don't really talk about.
Yeah.
And I believe this because my mom apparently likes baseball. And I'm like, huh?
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't ever see my mom watching baseball. But I don't know if it's something she liked when she was little or what the case is. But she's mentioned it before. And we used to go to the Missions games all the time.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know.
Oh, they're not the Missions anymore, by the way.
Oh, what are they now?
You want to know what they are?
Are to the tacos?
The flying chanclas.
Well, that was a gimmick thing. Is that official?
That's official.
Because, like, I know they did that for a little bit, but I didn't know it was like official.
I'm pretty sure that's their official name now. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'd have to check that out because I know there was a gimmick week for that kind of baseball for a while. And that was like really popular, but I don't know if that's their official name, but it could be. I haven't been to a game in a really long time. Anyways, she talks about baseball and she talks about how it's not over until it's over, right? Like she's talking about this. This is also where I say Martha looks kind of hot in this book.
Yeah.
Because it's like a little bit more modern day Martha, but not like the way they did it in Spawn, where she was blonde and blue-eyed and everything like that. This seems more like she's a classy flapper type of outfit and hairstyle and whatnot. More like, 20s, early 20s kind of thing. Like Great Gatsby type woman. But she looks kind of cool here. And so they're talking about baseball. So that's how Batman learns about it and everything like that. And we see the detective saying like, oh, we got to go find this certain character. And we go to this guy named Vito. And Vito's in a safe house. And he's like, yo, I need men with guns and stuff. If people are going to come after me, he's like, dude, I got the best technology, uncle. We're good. Like, you're safe. And he's like, I'm not safe. And then Batman's all like, you should get better security. And he's all like, oh, shit. And there, he knocks down the cousin. He's talking to Vito. And I actually love this where Vito's all like, hey, don't worry, kid. Like, Batman is the best security you could have. And so I'm like, villains are smart. They know that, like, oh, this is the safest place to be is getting beat up by Batman. So I love that Batman, of course, the other guy tries to shoot Batman. He throws a batarang. He's like, don't even think about it. And we learn the history or the backstory of Mr. Baseball. He was a guy that was really good at his job, but robbed the wrong people, which he robbed this Vito guy.
Yeah.
And they tricked him into finding him because he went into hiding after he did this. They tricked him because his weakness is baseball. So they invite him to opening day. And it's his friend that was the friend of Matches Malone. I think Mickey was his name. So Mickey invited Mr. Baseball to opening day. And that's where they catch him. And they're like, hey, you got to come with us. And they don't kill him, but they make him look like a baseball. So they carve into his head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of crazy. Nice little like way to make a character, you know? And we see that, that's when we learn that Mr. Baseball would distract Batman during these heists by paying a villain to go do something. We see Ratcatcher here. Batman and Robin are fighting all these rats. And that's when we learn that he robbed Mr. Vito and all that kind of stuff. Well, fast forward to them like, oh, we got to go find this guy. He ended up killing the veterinarian and everybody in that place. And so he's on the run. And now that's the whole backstory of why Vito's in hiding. And because Vito, I love this little tidbit where Vito saw him outside of his building, pointing at him and doing like the Babe Ruth, like it's going that way.
Yeah.
I thought that was a nice little thing. And so Batman is getting this whole story, and he's all like, yo, like, we're good. We got to get out of here. And that's when the nephew or whatever is like, dude, it's, we're held tight. We're good. Breaks through the window, Mr. Baseball. And he's all, he starts fighting Batman. He's like, I've always wanted to do this. He starts hitting Batman with the bat. Batman's like, you're in over your head. Like, you don't know what you're doing. He's like, oh, I do. I'm the distraction. And which is great because it shows again that he knows that Batman would be distracted by something, and the real plan is actually happening, which is when we find out the nephew is going to turn on his uncle to take over the family business, essentially. So
and I love that he's like, oh, well, he's got my family. He's got my son.
Yeah.
And my son comes first. Family comes first. And Vito's like, but I'm your family. And the nephew says, by marriage. And he's about to shoot him. And that's when Batman gets his grappling or whatever and was able to pull the gun away just in time for the bullet to veer off steadily and not hit Vito.
Yeah.
But they, take Mr. Baseball to Blackgate, and the guy, Mr. Baseball's like, you'll see the day. I'm gonna walk out of here like no problem. And the guy's like, yeah, this isn't Arkham. Like, that's what all the escapees they want to be escapees.
Yeah.
And Mr. Baseball says, well, nothing's impossible if you got the right team. And the last panel is like a whole bunch of these people leaning on their the front of their jail cell, meaning he's already planned for all of this.
Yeah.
It makes it sound like so.
Yeah, or he's going to.
Yeah, I really dug this story.
Yeah, this story was great. It also reminded me of how, like, we had that Two-Face story when Two-Face wasn't even in it with the driver.
Yeah.
That was a really good story. That would be cool if she was in here and she was the getaway person, like tying these stories together. But yeah, this was a solid story. It created a new character. We got the origin and everything in one book. And it's a character I wouldn't mind seeing again.
Do you know what's wild about this story, though?
What's up?
The writer also wrote DC Future State Gotham. Remember that black and white story that we did not like? The one that followed Jason Todd?
I mean, I probably blanked it out of my mind.
Yeah, like it was that bad. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, people can never. I mean, it's not out of this world to think that, right? Like, we like James Tynion, we just don't like his Batman.
Yeah.
So Darsky's done good stuff, we just don't like his Batman.
Yeah.
So, very interesting. But this was a cool thing, and maybe it's one of those things where when you create your own creation, it's so much easier to write. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did a little bit of Batman in this book. It did add kind of a little mythos to Batman, his mom liking baseball. That's something to hang your hat on.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of it. Like, that was interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed that story. I thought it was awesome. I would love to see more of that. But then we had the team that did Nero Year and our Clayface story that we liked, doing a backup of in this same Brave and the Bold, which was this very unique take on Batman, gothic style Batman, where he was going, love the suit, by the way.
Love the suit.
Yeah, very like skinny type of Batman, but it looked really cool. I think this would be a great cosplay.
No gloves, bare hands.
Yeah, that was interesting. So cool looking Batman who's going to fight actual like demon type bat people because he's going after Langstrom. So he's going after Man-Bat. Man-Bat looks like a demon more than a bat, which is crazy. This is all in black and white, by the way, for our listeners. And great art. Art looked amazing in this book.
This is George Molina. He also was the one who did the Williamson story with Abyss.
Oh, okay. Got you. Yeah, that art was great in that book too, even though the story kind of fell off. Love the Batmobile. Don't know what you thought about the Batmobile.
Batmobile was dope. It had old remnants of like the animated series. It was elongated, but in the front it has like these gothic like gargoyle demon like things. I thought that was pretty cool.
That was pretty awesome. And he was using the Batmobile to just destroy a building.
Yeah.
Which is what Alfred, like he was talking to Alfred. He was like, yeah, hit the building with it. And so he used it. I liked that his Batarang was like an axe, but also like a grappling hook. Like it was all like a weapon, like a all in one type of weapon, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. So what this is an interesting take on Batman because
Yeah.
this is clearly a Batman that kills demons. This
Yeah.
is like Van Helsing Batman.
Yeah.
Which I totally agree with because of course he's not killing humans, right?
Mhm.
Which is completely different. I think there is a huge argument for that, but it is different. But he essentially like these guys,
Mhm.
the Batman Beyond and Clayface writers,
Yeah.
they did Gothic Batman better than Ram V.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause
I
like
want more of this more than I want more of what's happening to Detective.
which is exciting because as he beats the demon and puts him in a chokehold and cuts off his wings, he doesn't kill him. So maybe he only kills like the little demons and he doesn't kill the big, I don't know. But he ties him up and cuts off his wings, but doesn't kill him because he leaves him tied up. We get possible setting up of a universe here that we might see in the future.
Yeah.
Because he says there are other people, which there's Poison Ivy, the woman who offered escape in every blooming touch, the King of Fears, who's unknown, the terrible Scion in the Onyx mask, and the man who laughed as thousands died. And Joker, interesting take on Joker here. He's like a creepy, like Japanese horror type of
He looks
monster.
like Golem from Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings.
So kind of crazy. And I love that before the final curtain, he will face them all until the only monster left in Gotham City is her savior, meaning Batman's the only one left.
Yeah.
And so I think it's kind of cool. I'd be down to see more of this. And yeah, and the other people that like they could create. That could be in a universe that I would be down to watch and read.
100%.
So that was pretty good. These guys at the moment do not miss.
No.
So
they do not.
And they show that in Batman Beyond. Because that is the last book we had. This is Batman Beyond Neo Gothic, the new issue, or I should say the second part of their Beyond series, which I think this is the best way to start writing comics. Do little 6-issue arcs, take a break, come back, drop another book. You're taking time to write stuff. You're doing it right. And so far, they've been doing it well. So we kind of learn, we get this vibe that there's like this special garden with like fruits and stuff. And there's a cat. We see this cat character who's like smoking and shit. He's like a humanoid cat. And these kids are eating this fruit. And then vines start taking all of these kids at the start. And it freaks out this cat. And he's like, I'm fucking out of here, bro. And he dips out. And then we see the new like bat suit essentially, which still very much like the original Batman Beyond, but he's got like red claws. I don't think he had that before. Kind of got the bottom of his soles kind of red, but he's got the wings back. Like they kind of come out of his arms instead of, I guess they've always kind of came out of his arms. Yeah. But you know, he's kind of got that suit going. We see the villains, the reformed villains that now work for him as basically as the Alfred and stuff like that to give him all the info on where he needs to fight. We see his new love interest is on the ground, kind of doing her own thing. And Batman's just fighting a bunch of people. That's kind of like how it is. He's fighting a bunch of, his new partners are telling him like, yo, this is all going on. You need to get there. And he goes and does it. It's kind of just like how Alfred did with Bruce. We do get this little shot of him talking to his mom. And I thought this was kind of interesting because she lives in Metropolis. That's always sunny, apparently.
Yeah.
And she's saying like, can't complain. Can't say I miss Gotham, but I miss you. And then he's like, yeah, mom, I get it. And she was like, oh, when are you gonna, talk to us? You're like, oh, she was like, I'm busy. And then she starts talking about his old love interest. She's like, she was your first crush. I saw her the other day. She lit up when I mentioned you. Like, you haven't talked to her since she left. But his new love interest came in and was all like, hey, we're gonna fuck. How about you get off your mom's phone, And which is very interesting. He's like, I gotta go, mom. Bye. And so that's kind of how it goes down. Which I thought was pretty cool. And then, like I said, we meet that Luminous guy again.
Yeah.
Which is so douchey. Like, I'm just like, I hate this guy.
Dude, I hate this guy because he is stereotypically like every billionaire out there.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm Mr. Big Shot. I got all the money. I can do whatever I want. And it's essentially what he says here. He's like, oh, we're gonna be taking this, part of the city and we're going to destroy it.
Yeah.
And this is when I believe it is what is her name?
I don't know her name. I don't think they say it in the book.
Yeah, they do. They
do?
call her what is it? Shit.
Yeah.
Because he mentions, "Oh, you're not a detective anymore. You're just you're no longer a part of the department." He calls her by her name, but I don't see it here.
Yeah, I don't think they ever said her name in here, to be honest. Because I'm looking at it. They're saying maybe if you still had your badge, you could literally do anything to stop me. She doesn't say her name. So I don't remember her name. But they don't say it at the start either. So I forgot what her name was.
Oh shit.
But anyways, it's the cop that was in the last book, if you guys remember that book. Because
Boonma is her last name. But it's her first name is Beam. Boonma. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of weird. But anyway, so that's she's kind of talking to him and he's all like, screw y'all. And what was happening is what he's talking about. The reason why he bought this city block is sinkholes are happening and they're destroying buildings or whatever. So he's like, oh, I'm just gonna buy the whole block and I'm gonna demolish it. And he says everybody will be relocated in 24 hours. And she's like, you can't even promise that. And he's all like, I just did. Like, you don't know me and you can't stop me. And so like it's just kind of like really assholey. And so she's telling this to Terry, and he's like, well, one thing that Bruce told me was that New Gotham was built on the bones of old Gotham. And I thought that was interesting because, like, a lot of people, and this is what I really liked about this, a lot of people have questioned how Gotham changed so much in the short amount of time between Bruce being Batman and Terry being Batman, because Bruce is still alive. And if we're just going in real world terms, no city has ever changed that much, unless you're like in China where they're like, they're demolishing stuff and building stuff like in days or whatever. Yeah. But for the most part, cities don't do that. And that story's never been explained. But here, I thought they did a really interesting thing where essentially New Gotham is built over old Gotham.
That's wild.
Yeah. So there's a whole city under Gotham, which I think is great because you can do all the old architecture and all that stuff, which is really cool. And they show that. They show this massive city with highways and everything under New Gotham. And so, Terry goes down there. He sees the cat. The cat's all like, yo, I got some fruit. You down to sell? And he's like, how much? And he's like, for you, 50 credits. And he's like, what about some information? He's like, depends. And then so they're like bargaining, and he's trying to find out like what's going on with these kids. Like, why are these kids missing? And the cat knows why they're missing, but he's all like, this and that. He's like, it's not happening down here. He's like, it's happening up there. And he's trying to get all this information, and he's trying to get it from Terry at this point. And he's like, I'm done talking to you, kid. And he walks away, and then Batman shows up. And I like that the cat was smart enough to be like, oh, you're working with Mr. Moneybags over there. And he's all like, you're the enforcer. And he's like, look, I told your friend I'm not doing anything like that. He's like, look, I'm trying to help out. I'm trying to do all this stuff. And I like how the cat was all like, dude, like, you live in the darkness. We have darkness you've never seen down here.
Yeah, I thought that was...
I
really love the dialogue in this book.
Yeah, the dialogue was fantastic. The art is great. There's these like interesting choices of like not doing thought bubbles, but just doing text like the way the anime does, or I should say manga. And it's just like you assume it's one of the characters talking, which I think is kind of cool. And so they use the black spaces in this book really well. And so this cat wants to know more about Terry, but Terry's like, I'm not going to give you my name. Like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, well, I don't have to, you can wonder about me all you want, but I'm never going to tell you. Like, it doesn't mean I want to talk about it, because Terry's trying to ask questions about him, and he's just like that.
Well, the really interesting thing is Batman says, I assume your name is Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat's like, yeah, we're all Kyle. I am Kyle Salinas 450.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's got to be some nod to Selena saving cats, but I guess they got turned into humans at some point.
Yeah, or at least humanoid.
Yeah.
But she's had over 450 cats. That's wild.
Doesn't surprise me. And I thought this was pretty interesting. They run into some villains, obviously, and this cat is just like, our Kyle is kind of like, hey, what's up, guys? And I'm just trying to show this new guy around. They're like, well, he's in areas he shouldn't be in. Of course, they're gonna fight Batman. Batman beats the shit out of all of them, and he's like, you owe those guys money? He's like, no, but my friend did. They just passed the debt on to somebody else. And I'm like, oh God, that sucks. So, we do get a Bane moment where they're gonna break him. I love that Terry just breaks out of it so easy. He's like, no, thank you, and just beats the shit out of this Bane type of character. And that's when we kind of learn about the debt and stuff like that. And he's all like, yeah, I spent time in Gotham juvenile detention. And he was, he says something about that. And then Terry's like, oh, yeah, I know about Gotham. I spent 18 months there. And he was like, it was my best 15th birthday ever, or like my best birthday ever. And he was like, oh, crazy. He's like, I spent my 9th, 11th, and 13th there. Like, I really enjoyed those. And so they kind of talk, and that's when he tells him his name. He's like, my name's Terry. And he's all like, nice to meet you, Terry. And then they jump into this massive hole. And then Batman, he's like, can you see down here? And he's like, no. He's like, now I can. And he turns on the Batman light, and it lights up that this whole underground area is covered with vines and stuff. And then he gets grabbed by somebody. I thought it was vines at first because I didn't see that it was claws. And he gets pulled away, and there's this massive forearm that's just crushing him into the ground. And Kyle's all like, Terry, and he's like, run, Kyle, run. And this big old monster is just taking him away. And it says, feast on the bat. And it says, next, King Croc. So
I am really digging this. Of course, the very beginning with the garden and the vines, I can only assume that it's something having to do with Ivy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be very surprising if she's able to live longer than the normal human being because of the way the green works.
Yeah.
And King Croc, like, is this going to be the same Killer Croc and he's become King Croc? Like,
yeah. Reptiles can live for a long time.
Yeah, so. I'm really digging all of this. I really did like the notion also that this Kyle character knew from the very beginning that it was the same person, this human and Batman, because he does tell Batman, it's like, hey, you may have a different face on right now, but you don't have a different smell. Like, I know it's you. And so that's when they were talking about names and stuff. He's like, you can just call me Batman. He's like, absolutely not. Like, I need to know your real name. And that's when later he tells him that it's Terry.
Yeah. So I thought it's pretty cool, man. I just love that they built new Gotham on top of old Gotham.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. Because I was like, layers? How many layers does the city have? And so that's kind of cool. Because he mentions he knows of at least 4. And he was like, somebody says there are 5, but nobody believes that guy. And so we're going to see basically like a video game type thing where Terry's going to go down levels to find out who's stealing these kids.
Yeah.
And again, if you do a level an issue, like that gets you to almost 6 if there is 5, right? Because he just went to the first level where he's on now, or maybe he's probably in the second one now. But that's the way you tell a story in 6 issues, and then they can take another break and do another Gotham later on. This team is probably the most exciting team to read right now.
Yeah.
When it comes to them, Dan Waters is great as well. And so I don't know. I think things are killing it. Where is Cami Garcia though?
I don't know. She has always been a bigger proponent for the young readers, novels. So I think she is preoccupied doing that stuff. But I would love to see her on one of these types of books.
Yeah. Let's give her something in Brave and the Bold at least. But yeah, it's nice to get some good Batman reading lately. I've had to force myself to read some of the Nightmares, but they're surprisingly good. And I've always said, like, because I am somebody that can be like dragged through stuff. Like, I didn't want to go to Comic-Con, but I was like, when I was there, I was like, it's pretty fun. I still enjoy it here.
Yeah.
And I just like, because I'm always like, I don't really want to do that. But when I get there, I have fun. And it's kind of how it is with these books. I'm like, I got to read it for the podcast. And then I'll start reading it. I'll be like, oh, this is pretty fire. Actually, this is a good book. And that's why I say good writing will always win me over. And that's why I think I put so much emphasis on bad writing, because I'm like, I didn't like this. Like, if it's good, I will like it, like 100%. But yeah, I don't know. I just got to say, reading's been better when Zdarsky hasn't been around. All I'm going to say, you know? But, you know, we'll see what happens. I think there's a lot of good writing that's happening right now. I'm just shocked that it's coming from these nightmare books, like a lot of it. I was very shocked that was another gimmicky thing. And I don't know if this is the new thing that they're going to do at DC by giving people time to write, but I don't know how long that could last.
Yeah.
Because, like, we might get lucky with the Gotham War being interesting enough since they have time to write it. But I also don't know, because, like, they were already going into that, and the art would have had to been in the works already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't have a lot of hope for Gotham Wars, but we'll have to wait and see. We're still, a month away from that? I think it shows up in September, or is it in August? Does it start in August?
Which one?
The Gotham Wars, the one that's going to be Catwoman versus Batman.
Yes, it's in August, I believe.
Okay.
No. Actually, no. It's in September because, well, actually, I think it's the end of August, because I believe this event is a 2-month event.
Okay. So yeah, we'll be getting to that eventually, but I'll take all the good comics I can, because like I said, I felt like I haven't read good comics in a while, and I'm here for it, man. So that's pretty cool. But that is all we got for this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Clay, what do you got going on this week, man?
This week we over at Star Wars Alliance reviewed the last of the Thrawn trilogy, The Last Command, so go check that out. And yeah, that's basically it.
Nice. I recorded the intro video to my new channel yesterday, so I'm going to be editing that. Thursdays are usually my Batman News Weekly day. I do need to work on the short that I'm currently working on. I got to get a lot of photos. So I'm going to be working on that probably after this podcast, maybe after I get a little bit of food in my stomach. But yeah, I've been doing that. We're streaming. We started playing Only Up. I don't know if you know what that is.
No.
We started playing that last night. Tomorrow, if you are listening to this, because we're still working out. Clay's taken over editing the podcast. We've learned his internet is not as fast as mine. So we're trying to figure out how this structure is working right now. So I'm hoping this comes out on Thursday. We'll see. But if you are listening to this before Friday night, we are going to be doing a Gang Beast stream. So if you want to come by and play some Gang Beast, or just watch a bunch of people kick the shit out of each other in Gang Beast, come by. If I don't get enough people on Gang Beast, we're going to continue playing Only Up, which is, it's rage-inducing, but not like some of the other games. Like, I
would never do that to myself. Never.
The game feels beatable, which is interesting. Unlike that one where the guy's in a bucket and he has the hammer, that game feels fucking hard, because that game is only mouse, and it's so hard. Whereas this one, you do WASD. So like it's better, and you can slow-mo, which helps out a lot. But I was taking a lot of risks, and that's why I kept falling. But anyways, it was fun to play. But we'll be doing that on stream. Like I said, I'm still working on a lot of the stuff for the new channel, but I'm starting to see that finish line. So hopefully that'll be launching pretty soon, but I got to keep working on it. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this podcast. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. And remember, Batman is awesome. News Weekly.